All right, I'm joined today by DJ Semtex. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just trying to trying to stay positive. Like the lockdown. Hopefully, it's gonna come to an end
Yeah,
soon. It feels like it is. The indications are there, and we've been told it is. I just hope it does kind of happen because it's getting very, very tedious. But other than that, I'm good. All good.
good. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. It'd be nice to get out and about. It's hard to say which way it's going to go, but I think being positive is probably the best way to go
Yeah.
about things after the whole year that we've been through. I mean, the year that we've been through may well have something to do with what we're about to talk about, because obviously a lot of people have started getting into podcasting, whether that's discovering podcasts to listen to, having more time to listen to them, listening to them on their walks, when they're doing their daily exercise, or indeed starting their own podcast. So, for anybody who doesn't know about your show, could you tell us what it is and how it came about?
Yeah. So I do the Hip Hop Raise Me podcast, and basically, it's a tribute to the culture, of hip hop. I've grown up on hip hop as a DJ. Is what I've played. Worked at labels. I've worked with some of the greatest artists. I've done a radio show for the last 17 years now, every Friday night. I've interviewed over 1,000 guests, and I've torn up a lot of shows and festivals. I've toured the world with different artists. So it's kind of like the director's cut to all of that. It's the insight to the artist and what they actually listen to. I think, a lot of the time we read about artists, or when they do interviews, they talk about the new project. We get the marketing plan in some cases, but
Yeah.
like I just want to find out how they do what they do, what inspired them, and how they managed to pick up the microphone and have the audacity to actually go on stage and rap. So yeah, it's pretty in depth, pretty nerdy, and it's just appreciation for the music.
Nice. Okay, so I guess that's been a real joy having the freedom that podcasting gives you. You're not
Definitely.
you don't have that 10 minute slot where you've got to cover all bases when it comes to the new album or the tour, whatever it is. You can literally just, like you say, geek out and talk about the things that you're interested in, and I guess that's refreshing for your guests as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think most people don't realize with artists, they actually they actually value it when they realize that people actually listen to the music. I think they do so many,
Yeah,
and this isn't to knock anybody, but I think they do so many interviews with DJs, journalists, and so forth, and it it's about what's now. It's about trying to get the clickbait. It's about trying to, in some cases, and it's about um, just trying to get that headline and that newsworthy thing. And it's, like if you actually say to an artist, why did you do this in verse two and track four? They're like,
mm,
wow, they actually appreciate it, and they open up even more. So just as a fan of music, I'm incredibly privileged to be able to get that deep dive, to get that insight, um, and find out firsthand, like, you know, what this track, what inspired it, and so forth, and everything else. So I'm incredibly fortunate more than anything else. I love doing it.
great. Sounds great. So, do you have any set format? Are there any sort of set questions that you like to try and hit, or segments, or is it just free flowing, see where it goes?
There's one question that I always ask, and I try to ask in different ways, but is what made you pick up the microphone? And it's interesting because it's almost like have you ever come across that book Freakonomics,
Yeah.
where it talks about reasons for certain things happening and everything else, and it's really interesting. So for a certain generation of rappers, 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying, that album is it's influenced basically pretty much every UK rap artist that's come out since 2015. It's like they all say it straight away. That album was the one that did it for me. A lot of You'd be surprised at how many female rappers um, were actually inspired by Eminem. It's crazy. Like
Really?
if yeah, and I haven't gone into it in this season, but when I've done previous interviews with other artists, like Angel Hayes or Lady Leisha, um, and more, they talk about what Eminem meant to them and everything, and it's really like that anger and that rage really appealed to them, and that's why they're like incredible MCs themselves. That influence is there, so it's really fascinating to see. And what we're finding at the moment in this season, pretty much everyone talks about even Mobb Deep or Jay Z. It's really bizarre, like how these shifts happen. So that side, yeah, what made you pick up the microphone? That's the most obvious thing that I always ask. And from there, it just goes on a deep dive wherever it takes us. Like I don't go into these talks with an agenda. It's just more to start a conversation and see where it goes, see where it ends up. But it's always fascinating. It's always a surprise. Like I always go into doing something expecting it to go one way and it doesn't, it goes another way.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's amazing, great opportunity.
So who have you had on? For anybody who hasn't had a chance to have a look down and a scroll through the episode list, I mean, I know you've had some massive names on there, but yeah, do you want to shout some of them out? I
mean, I had to start, this series with Chuck D from Public Enemy. He's an artist that inspired me when I was a kid. What Public Enemy changed my life, really did. So I've been fortunate to talk to him like several times over the years. And then, even with this episode, even though, I kind of know him, it's still a fascinating conversation. It's still, fascinating to hear his perspective on everything from hip hop to life in general. This guy's in his 60s and he's still rapping and he's still on stage and he's still touring more than most new rappers ever will. When the lockdowns ended, and he's got an amazing perspective, but it's so current. It's fascinating. So, for instance, this was episode 1. We did that 10 weeks ago now, and he was talking about how people listen with their eyes, they don't listen with their ears, and he's talking about how people judge music differently now. And I did a talk with Getz, who's on the most recent episode, said exactly the same thing. There's a clip I posted on social media today where he's talking about the certain people that listen with their eyes and not their ears, and those people shouldn't be trusted with a phone. And it's pretty funny the way he goes into it, because I was asking him, like, was it a risk doing a track with Ed Sheeran? Because he, Getz is a hard rapper. Ed Sheeran is like one of the biggest pop artists. So, and he broke it down, and the way he broke it down, there was a parallel to what Chuck D was saying. So it's really fascinating to see how there's links in different episodes with different artists, even though they're age gap and even though they're in a different continent, different style of rap. It's fascinating to see the similar observations, or they go through similar things. You wouldn't think it. You wouldn't assume it at all. So Chuck D, Busta Rhymes, French Montana, and then new cutting edge artists like JPEG Mafia or Slow Tie. I think one of my favorite episodes is with Stephen Victor, is the guy who managed Pop Smoke, and he just gave a fascinating insight into an artist who's gone way too soon. So it's really, for me, it's a luxury. It's an absolute privilege to be able to do this, because as a fan of hip hop, living my best life.
yeah, man, definitely. And how have you found it? I mean, obviously, with your history and your background, you know a lot of these people anyway, or you will have met them face to face. You will have had a lot of them coming into the studio to actually come and promote stuff. I just wonder, do you find, like, with Zoom and the fact that everybody's stuck at home, obviously it's easier to get access to some people because they're available and they're at home. But do you find that people are more comfortable? Like, if, for instance, I'm talking to you now, I can see you're in your own studio, you're relaxed. After this, you're not going to have to go and jump on a tube. You haven't just got off a tube. You're not flustered. You haven't got PR people telling you to do this, that, and the other. I mean, you may well do, but I just wondered if you find it on a podcast format and speaking to people in their own homes a lot of the time, if people just become a bit more open and a bit more comfortable.
I think there's benefits. There's definitely benefits, and it definitely outweighs any potential kind of negative. I feel, myself personally, I feel there's more pressure, because when you're doing a face-to-face interview, you can use silences. You can say something, and you're kind of like passing the baton for someone to say something back. And because there's that element of uncomfortable silence, they're going to talk, so it kind of helps you when you're doing an interview, that you don't have to have free flowing, but you can, I think the artist or the interviewee is under more pressure to conversate. Whereas doing something remotely like we're doing now, they can wrap it up quicker if they wanted to. Like if you haven't got enough conversation to keep it going, it can be 10 minutes instead of being 30 minutes or longer. So I find that you have to, for me, I've got to work harder to keep the conversation going. I've got to have way more questions. I can't be as loose as what I used to be, because I think the conversation's actually sped up because of little things like that. And most people, unless you do this, you wouldn't really notice, but it definitely makes a difference. And I feel that it's better because you can definitely connect to more people. You're not at the mercy of a promo schedule. You're not at the mercy of this person's in town or whatever. It's for instance, I wanted to reach out to Vic Mensa, and he wasn't in any kind of promo cycle or anything like that. And it was an incredible talk. That one's only on YouTube because we did that before the season started, and before I started the season as well, because we had to adapt to what was going on with the pandemic. I did some tests and just purely for YouTube, because I was like, I can't just do this cold. So it's continual trial and error. We're always looking at different ways to improve the quality of the audio, the visual, and everything else. And what I found, I think it's actually liberating. I love it. Like when the lockdown's lifted, I'm going to continue to do it because I feel we can move quicker. I feel we can reach more people. I feel like I've got better as a broadcaster / interviewer, and this is the way forward. It's great. Like we started using, we tested everything: Microsoft Teams, Google Hangouts, Zoom, and so forth. And right now we're onto Ecamm now. Ecamm is definitely the best one because the footage is like 4K, audio is crystal clear. So, and even with that, we had to test that out, do a couple of test runs and everything else, and I think we've got it. I think we've got to that point where it's as good as doing it live now. So it's been challenging, but what we're going to do, wait a year for when things get better.
Exactly.
Let's get into it,
I've just made a note of Ecamm because we tried quite a few as well. Is it good?
It's amazing. It's the best. It really is. You'll use interview mode, and you'll never use this again.
Oh man. Okay. I wish I'd found out about this a while ago.
Yeah, cool. But to start using it, for me personally, I need to be confident that I know what I'm doing with it. But I've done a few things with it now, and it's we did the Gets one with it, and it's amazing. It was like absolutely flawless. So nice. I really recommend that moving forward.
Cool. You've just said that you're going to carry on doing this after the pandemic is over, but I guess, you will look forward to maybe being able to do a mix of remote ones. Obviously, when people are overseas, it's going to make sense to do it on the internet, but getting people face to face again, it's going to be nice. It's just going to be nice to see people, right, in the flesh.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I love traveling. When I was doing the Who We Be podcast, we had a couple of moments where, for instance, we flew out to interview Swiss Beats, and we got to New York, and they were like, "Oh, he's not here. He's in LA. LA tonight." I was like, "Yeah." So we flew to New York, landed in New York for like 2 hours, and then got on a plane back to LA to do the talk. We did the interview with Swizz, and then we got the last flight back to New York. It's mad. Like it was silly hours. And then the day after, I went and interviewed Joe Budden in his mansion. Crazy. I love that. Yeah. I love the chaoticness. There was I love going to America because just pack out the schedule, do anyone who's available. Yeah, we're coming. We're doing this. Like I always walk with recording equipment wherever I go, so I'm always ready to go. But I do miss that. I definitely miss that. I miss doing things backstage. Those are always the most exciting, and again, it's a different energy, it's a different buzz, and it's a different conversation. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of both. Definitely.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, being able to integrate some of that backstage stuff to add a bit of atmosphere is going to be cool. Nice. All right. So yeah, sounds as if the podcast is just going to keep going from strength to strength moving forward. Obviously, I'm guessing it's available in all the usual places. Don't even need to say that anymore,
Yeah.
right? You're not.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, DJ Semtex.
Thank you.